don't want to toot my own horn. I think I have some cult leader qualities, but like if I were tasked with that. However, I do not have cult leader ambitions. So just putting that out.
Hey, I'm Gemma, host of I Don't Know What We're Talking About and the person behind Gemma Watches Stuff. Here's how this show works. One guest, 5 topics, one surprise selection, and absolutely no script. Just pure, fun, chaotic conversation. This episode, I'm hanging out with Nicole Pacent. Nicole is an actor and advocate whose work spans film, television, and media. You may recognise Nicole from her recurring role in Criminal Minds Evolution as Rebecca Wilson. Beyond that, she's known for her performances in independent projects and her ongoing commitment to LGBTQ+ representation on screen. Let's jump in. Hello, welcome to the podcast. I don't know what we're talking about. The podcast that is a little bit chaotic, a little bit of fun, slightly unhinged, all the rest of it. We got no plan,
I love it.
no structure.
That
Roll
feels
with it. And
that
today,
feels like a person I want to hang out with. A
amazing.
little chaotic, slightly unhinged, all of it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Today with me on the podcast, I have Nicole Pacent, the amazing, incredible, beautiful woman here today, jumping on board. So thank you so much for giving up some of your time to come and chat with us.
Thank you for asking me.
The way this podcast works is the guest sends me 5 topics in advance of what they want to talk about, what they want to discuss, and to their surprise, I pick one and we just jump straight into it and roll with it. And the topic that we've settled on for you to give us some conversation about today, I thought was absolutely hilarious, and I have really no idea where this is going to go at all. It was the craziest, most unhinged, funny. I was like, oh, this has to be the topic. The night I realised I wanted to start a commune.
Correct.
I don't even know where to start from there. I'm just going to throw that to you. I'm like, you could have, the only premise I gave you for this podcast, the only instruction I gave you was anything you could talk about comfortably for, 30, 45 minutes. And that was one of the things when you were like, yeah, this is the thing.
Listen, this is the thing that I think about as in my future commune. I think about every day. So so believe me when I tell you plenty of content on this. Okay, so where it begins. It begins 2 years and 2 months ago. So June of 2023, I was invited to participate in a queer medicine journey. So it was Pride Month of 2023. And what that means for laymen who do not normally decode medicine journey, it's essentially like a facilitated like high or drug induced experience, right? And so the drug of choice in this medicine journey was psilocybin, so mushrooms, right? And I had never done mushrooms before because I'm a good girl. And actually, I'm not a good girl. I'm just a girl who has like way too many control issues. So growing up, it's like fully that. It's entirely because of my own neuroses. And so growing up, like I was definitely, I drank and like I went in and out of, marijuana usage to some extent, but never like huge. And mainly because of, control. So while my friends were experimenting with other drugs, I was like, no, I'm good. I'm not going to do that. But then I got to this point in my life, and this was now late 30s, where I was like, okay, I've done enough like inner work that I feel like I could let go to this extent. Also, mushrooms are much more controlled than they used to be because they've become so mainstream now, for journeys like this and sort of opening up of different pathways in your brain and all that. There's been a lot of awesome science on mushrooms. And sorry, there's screaming upstairs at my dogs. And so, and I really trusted the person who was running this journey. And so I was like, all right, it's on. Like I'm in. It also sounds awesome to do this with, it was 15 other queer people during Pride Month. We were at this like amazing house that had been rented out for this, or had been really gifted to the group for this purpose. We were sleeping over, like we brought sleeping bags. I brought like my stuffed animals. I didn't know if it was going to be a good or a bad journey. So I had, yeah, yeah. So anyway, and when we got there, after we were like socializing a bit, we sat in a circle for like an hour, introduced ourselves, kind of really got into it. These are a bunch of theater people too, I want you to know. Like these are not just like regular everyday queers. These are theater queers. So we're all like, yes, these are my feelings. Like I will let me share my innermost thoughts with you immediately. And I knew a handful of them, so like enough to feel a little comfortable at least. But no one was so close that I was like gonna cling to anybody throughout the night. I really went as like a solo human. And after we kind of went through where we were at and goals and things like that, there was a sound bath, an hour-long sound bath where we were ritualistically handed the mushroom chocolate, and we took the mushroom chocolate, and in the hour that it took from taking the mushroom chocolate to come up, is what it's called, right? So like kind of feel the effects of the mushrooms. We came up to like a sound bath with Tibetan bowls and all of that. So just closing your eyes and like all laying on the ground together. It was magical. And so then we came out of that, and someone immediately read this like beautiful poem that he brought, and we were all like, yes, this is so beautiful. And so then we all kind of scampered out to where we wanted to go around the house. It was a choose your own adventure kind of situation. And basically, like, long story short, throughout the night, I ended up largely outside under this like pagoda with this gorgeous chandelier, and just like lounging with friends and new friends who I really was just meeting that night, or maybe for the second time, lounging and just talking about life. And something that kept occurring to me throughout were how much I loved the people in my life, and not just like my partners, but my friends, right? And that, like, so much love. And several people throughout the night in different conversations kept bringing up this idea of communal living. And I was like, well, I've heard about that. But there were people at this thing who had really researched it and talking about how to do that in urban areas, and then with like existing infrastructure, and then in non-urban areas, and more of like a sprawling, like, we have a bunch of houses on like a lot of land and whatever. And for the first time, it didn't sound like a cult to me. I like, that's the thing, is like, you say, even now in these 2 years since I've been saying this, I'm very careful to not always use the word commune. Or I'm like, a compound, like a compound, or like my own village. You know what I mean? Because when I say commune, people are like, "Are you starting a cult, Nicole? Is that what's happening?" Yeah. And I'm sure that's what you thought as well, Gemma. And so no, well, I don't want to toot my own horn. I think I have some cult leader qualities, but if I were tasked with that. However, I do not have cult leader ambitions. So just putting that out. Anyway, but I'm driving home from this experience the next day, just on such a natural high at this point. Like my dopamine was like, woo! I felt so like happy and enlightened and hopeful. And I came home and I sat my husband down on the couch, who has definitely done all of this before. And as I'm engaging in this conversation with him, I'm like, okay, I know I'm sounding like that person who just got home from a mushroom journey, or like a silent meditation retreat, or like fill in the blank of spiritual experience, who's like, life has changed. You need to listen to the wisdom that I am imparting on you now. Like I recognized that I was that cliche, but I was like, he's allowing me this space. That's very kind of him. Anyway, but it was, I sat down, I started crying, and I was like, I just, you know, we live so apart from everybody in our little bubbles, our houses are all little islands away from each other. The nuclear family is your own little island, and it's a cage, and it's and it's we're not supposed to live like this. And people lived in generational compounds forever for human history, all the way up to the 1950s when all of that fell apart. Like I was in it. And I was like, we can create the village. I just want to go back to village living. I don't want to do it like our parents did it. I don't want to be stressed like they did. Let's live differently. And like, he was like, okay, okay. Just like, really, to his credit, holding that space. And I'm very glad to say, though, that well, unfortunately, the dopamine high has not lasted 2 years and 2 months. Had some lows in there. I what actually did last is that desire and that belief that it could be done. And mainly the idea of like buying a piece of land that's somewhere between an hour or two outside of a major city, so not too far, but like so that you can have space, and be in nature and all that, and create like 1,000 square foot dwellings, kind of. And then, I'm not talking about like, you're working the land together and tilling and churning, whatever that means. I don't know, words I've heard with farm commune living. I don't mean like we share a bank account. Like I'm not like it's not that, but just creating a village, like basically just creating a village on a piece of land and being in community with one another, and like sharing meals once or twice a week in like a scheduled way, and taking care of each other's kids, and doing these things that feel so inaccessible in today's world, really, but feel so much actually more natural to human nature than what we are doing currently. And that is so much of why I think about it all the time, is because it's this like goal that I'm working towards. I'm like, okay, where is it going to be? How are we saving towards it? All of that. But then also because the world feels so out of alignment with our human nature and what should be for us as like both animals and spiritual beings right now, that this feels like a light, like a North Star that I'm sort of trying to move towards in that darkness. So yeah, that is the end of my monologue about it. And you can feel free to ask questions or jump in with your opinions now.
Oh, I love it. Thank you for coming to your TED Talk. Brilliant. That's fantastic. I, I so many things, so many things. There were so many moments that I was like, oh, I want to ask about that, or I want to know about what happened here. But I'm like, no, no, you go. You've got things to say. You get it out. That was fantastic. I'm gonna go back to the very beginning, and you
Please.
said something about man, I should have been taking notes. You were talking about how you trusted the person who was organizing or hosting or leading the experience for you, and I think that in itself is something that has to be highlighted and talked about. Having that experience with somebody who you trust enough to then go into that with, because you also mentioned that you didn't know, or you'd only met, once or twice a few of these other people, queer actors that you were in this space with, and then some strangers, and then not knowing them and putting yourself in what is a vulnerable position to, you're opening yourself up to all of this experience, and that can be quite a scary, vulnerable thing as well. So I just wanted to highlight, I love the fact that you pointed that out, that it was somebody that you trusted to go on that journey with.
Yes, see, that's the controlling part of me, right? But that's the way that like control or an anxiety should work in one's body. Do you know what I mean? Like we try to control and we get anxious about things that with it, like where we have to tell our bodies like, okay, I know you're trying to protect me, but this is not helpful. This is the opposite of helpful right now.
Yeah.
But in this case, that's very helpful because it's going like, okay, it's identifying, I know what I need for this to be the most positive experience that it can be. And it's that I need to trust the person who is leading this, trust that they know what they're doing, and just trust them as a human being, and know that like if I fall apart, if things are not good, because there's a total possibility that it was not going to be a good journey, or it's going to be difficult in some way, like trust that like this person's got me, and I feel comfortable enough with them. And and what that does is it creates the container to be able to let go, you know like otherwise there's still part of you that's clinging, and then that works its way into the journey, and you don't want that. So for me, I was like, it allowed me, I was still nervous, but it allowed me to be much more excited about the whole prospect of it. Yeah, yeah.
You're sort of talking like a healthy expression of anxiety versus an unhealthy expression of anxiety, because that healthy expression of anxiety is you being like, okay, I'm excited, I'm nervous, this is going to be fun, this is a new experience, I'm going to go into this, but I trust the person leading this, so I know that, these nerves and feelings of anxiety, this is a healthy expression of that need to control, in that, you trust them, and that's a healthy expression of feeling anxious, like excitedness, like that's great. But then I love that you also pointed out that in order to let that control be a healthy process in trusting that person, the flip side of that is it needed to be that, because if it wasn't, then it would ruin the experience for you, because then you've got that unhealthy anxiety and that unhealthy coping mechanisms that come in to be like, I don't know, like, I don't know this person, I'm so worried about this, like, what if this goes wrong, what if this happens? And then that is your unhealthy anxiety that takes over, which would have ruined the whole experience for you completely.
Yes, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's like then it's like, why even do it? Then you're kind of setting yourself up for failure in that way. And to me, that was not going to be the point. And I really, but that's the thing. It's like I will. That's my sort of risk level is I will control the things that I can control and then take a risk, where I'm like, okay, there's going to be an element of risk, but it's not all risk. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
sure. Yeah.
there's a net that I'm jumping into.
Yeah.
I'm going to leap, but there's a net,
And I think that is, I 100% agree with you. And I think that's the best way to live life, like with anything. I think that the anxiety and things that we have are there. And I mean, even you've said it already. It's there to keep us safe and go, are you sure you want to do that? Is that the best thing for us? Is that the safest thing we should be doing right now? And that's healthy anxiety. And having that and accepting that and acknowledging that within my body, I know that I'm starting to feel anxious, but this is my body telling me that I'm doing something new, or I'm taking a risk, or I'm stepping into something that's different or exciting or scary even, and that's okay. And like, to feel that
yeah,
anxiety about that, it's a total normal human emotion, and that's fine. That's a healthy
yeah,
anxiety, and that's kind of what you're getting at, right? Like
yeah,
being
yeah.
able to let go of control, and but still have that net under you, to have still put in healthy precautions and things around you, like the trust within this person who was leading, the experience, to know that there was some level of control still there. But that allows you to take the risk.
Yes.
It's not
Oh,
silly. It's not dumb. It's
absolutely.
putting processes in place to allow you to then take the next step and do that and have that experience, which then makes the experience all that much better.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going like, oh, I don't know, that would like wholesale. Oh, I would be too nervous that something would go wrong. It's going, oh, I want what everybody else is talking about, and I want to also feel like I'm doing everything I can to make that positive for myself before I jump in. Whereas there are other people who will be just be like, okay, I'm here and I'm doing it. And you're like, okay. And that's bless them for being able to have that amount of abandon. But like this shows up in so many areas of my life. Like it's one of the reasons that even this many years into my career, I still go to acting class. I still do acting class once a week because it is a safe space to be able to experiment and take risks. on material that I maybe don't feel comfortable with, or where a muscle of mine that is a little bit weak or whatever. Think something that makes me feel very vulnerable, that maybe on material I'm not being handed at work, but that I want to get stronger at or whatever. I can do it in that space with a teacher who I know has my best interest and who speaks a language that I understand, a language of the craft that I understand, and with a very supportive group of fellow actors who are all coming to do the same thing. It's that exact same thing of like, okay, well, this feels like a safe space to take a risk if there ever is one.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And
yeah.
I think each person's journey is different, and each person's like
Hmm.
experience and how they approach risk taking and how they approach decision making, I think is all it's very independent. It's very everybody's story is different, and so I don't think there's anything wrong with people who. And I know that you feel this way too with like what you've just said is that anybody if people jump in with free abandoned like they've got no plan, no structure, no safety net, no nothing, and they've let full control out the window and they just jump both feet head first, don't check. Like, if that works for you, fantastic, go for it. I have a strong appreciation for people who can do that because
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more like you. I'm like, yeah, I want to take that risk. I want to jump in, but just let me make sure that I've got 2 or 3 things lined up, just background, just in case.
Uh-huh.
So that
Exactly.
I've got an escape plan at least if I jump in head first and
Yes.
take that risk.
Yes.
But then I know other people that are so structured and coordinated and they will take risks, but I would call it a very calculated risk. That there's a plan and there's a structure in taking that first step, and it's still a risk because doing anything new or different, you are taking a risk into the unexpected. But I know
Yeah.
people on the very other end of the spectrum who need to have that plan and structure. And again, that's not me, but I have a great appreciation for you. If that's how you work and that's how you need to have safety net and things sorted before you take a step, if it works for you, that's great. I think I navigate more in the middle with you. I think I need like 1 or 2 little plans in the
Yes.
background to have it all, and then I'm like, okay, I'm good.
Yes, exactly, exactly. So that things aren't going to go completely off the rails, but that it's like it's still a risk and it's still a mystery and it's still exciting, you
Yeah,
know? Like, okay, within this container, anything can happen. So cool,
I
Yeah.
love that. Something else I also wanted to highlight as from your monologue, love it. At the end, the holding space, the fact that your partner was there, and I love that you highlighted that because often when people have any experience, any exciting, cool, amazing, I've had a great day at work, let me tell you about it, in any, situation, in any relationship of any kind, if you've got something you're excited about, you're passionate about, you want to share, having somebody to talk to in that space is obviously super important. Having a relationship where you can be like, guess what's happened to me today? I'm so excited about this. Let me tell you about it. But I love the fact that you described in that relationship, and it's so healthy, and I love it so much, and more people should talk about it. In that, do you have space for me right now to go blah 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 about all of this stuff? And the fact that your partner was able to like, yep, hit me with it, and then knew the place in that time and what you needed in that time was for them to just be like, okay, hit me with it, I'm ready. And
Yep.
their whole role in that was to just be there and support you. But then that
Yep.
gave you the opportunity to then get to express to your fullest heart's content all of this stuff that you wanted to share in your experience. And I think that's the best and most healthy way to do relationships. And I love that you brought that up because I think so many people have enthusiasm and passion and excitement for something and they want to share it, but they either don't approach the right person about it or the person doesn't respond in the correct way. And then that can feel stifled when you don't get the opportunity to get all of that passion and enthusiasm out. And I just love that you mentioned that and your relationship is like that. Does this make sense? What I'm saying makes sense.
It makes complete sense. And I think so much of it too is like, sometimes it's about, well, it's always a, when someone brings Debbie Downer energy to an interaction where the other person just really needs them to hold that like that excited, supported space for them, it is always really a in some way a reflection of that other person who's unable to hold that space for whatever reason, and maybe their own whatever inability to get excited in that way or whatever it is, or practicality always coming to the forefront and then whatever. But I think so much of it, when people don't hold that space or don't know how, is that they also don't recognize that like like he might have been sitting there going, okay, I'm seeing a few practical questions here that I have, and some hurdles that we would have to go over. I'm not sure how this would work. I really wonder if she's considered this, but do you know what? Right now is not the time to bring that up. We have This is not happening tomorrow. We have all the time in the world when she is not on an actual dopamine high. We can then talk more practically about this, and I can maybe poke a few holes if that feels really necessary at a time where like she's going to be more receptive to that and it's not going to kill her buzz, you
Yeah,
know?
100%.
Where it's not like I was saying anything that was like harmful or that was, an imminent, like I was like gonna upend my life the next day without thought or something like that, where someone had to be like, whoa, 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 pump the brakes, Like, yeah, it wasn't that. It was like, okay, she has a long-term dream, and the logistics and the difficulty of that don't need to be part of this conversation. That's not the point of this conversation. The point is to hold space for the dream,
Mhm.
and all the rest will follow, you
Yeah.
know? And I think so much of it is that people in the air of like, well, I'm just being honest with you. I just want to be honest with you. And you're like, yeah, 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 yeah. Got it. And there's a time when it's like what I'm thinking right now is in high school when my grandmother came to see me in one of my shows, one of my musicals that I did. And she had previously been a singer herself. And when I walked out afterwards, and was saying hi to my family and all of that, and they were giving flowers, whatever, my nana was like, said something along the lines of like, it was really good, except for that one high note. And I was like, did you really like have to say that then? And I'm sure like my mom had a talked to my nana, and I'm sure my nana did not take it well because she was not a woman who received criticism very well. But bless her. But it really is one of those things where you're like, I saw it over and over again throughout theater school and whatever. There is a time and a place for critique. And that is never immediately after someone has put their heart and soul on stage. It is not. It is why, like, really great teachers, if they are taking feedback from the class after somebody does a scene, they'll say, okay, what did everyone love about the scene? What do you like about it? Like what was working? Tell them what was working. So front load what was working. And then we can move into, and what ideas what were you unclear about? What do you feel like maybe could be worked on? Whatever it is. So that the criticism, when it comes, is constructive and it comes after the praise, and I think so much, especially like in, I think the culture around like radically honest communication, which is something I radically honest communication is great, and like there is a strategy to it like anything else. It doesn't mean you're being dishonest by not immediately critiquing or poo-pooing something. Do you know what I mean?
100%. Oh, absolutely, 100%. But first of all, I'm sorry you had to go through that experience in feeling like you didn't hit that high note, because that is painful. And obviously that was difficult and hard for you because it's naturally come up in this conversation now. So obviously it's something that has stuck with you and it's been a part of you and your experience and journey in acting and singing and performing and all of that. So the fact that it's come up now means that it's still somewhere within you there. And so we're going to highlight that that was a painful and difficult thing and it's shaped who you are, and we need to highlight and acknowledge that. So thank you for sharing, and I'm sorry that you had to go through
Sure.
that. Some people are
Yeah.
like, they're just so dismissive of pain, and I'm like, I can't do that. Like, that was a difficult thing
Oh
that's impacted
no.
you, and we're gonna call it what it was. So thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that, and I appreciate that.
of
I
course.
100% agree with you on everything you've just said. I think you're absolutely right. And my friends, the relationships that I have, the community that I'm in, we all do this thing whenever somebody's like, oh, hey, guess what? Or I've got this really exciting thing to share with you, or I've just had this cool experience, or, come home from work and be like, hey, and I'm like, yeah, like what? Guess what? Yeah. And before they get into their big, you know, word vomit about everything that they're excited about and they need to get off their chest, before they start word vomiting, I go, okay, hang on a minute. Before I do have space for that, so that's great. But before we get into that, do you need a hype girl right now? Do you need me to be your hype girl right now? Or do you need me to be the logic in your brain right now that you might not have because you're
Yeah.
on dopamine high? What do you want? And then they'll be like, oh, I'm really excited about this. I need a hype girl. I need you to just be my hype girl right now and just feed me all of the yes, let's do this vibe. And I'm like, okay, I got you. I can be your hype girl. Hit me, I'm ready, let's go. And
Uh-huh.
that is healthy communication. That is good, appropriate, healthy communication. Now, if in the process of them word vomiting all of their excitement out to me, in the back of my brain, like what you said, I'm like, oh, that's a red flag, or oops, I've got some questions about that, or that might not be the correct way to approach this, or we should probably have a chat about that. If they have asked me to be their hype girl, I am going to be their hype girl. That's what they've asked for. And as a friend and somebody who cares about them, I'm going to respect that that's their wishes and that's what I'm going to give them. But I think you're
Yeah.
100% correct that there's a way to do that honestly. That doesn't mean I have
Yeah.
to lie. That doesn't mean I have to, all of the concerns that I have about what they've said in my head, that doesn't need to go anywhere. It doesn't need to come out my mouth. It can stay in my head. But there's a space to still react honestly and be as excited and as passionate about whatever they're talking about as they are, and reflect that as a
Mhm.
friend and someone who cares about them. When the time is right, there is always a time and space for everything. And you are 100% correct. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. And more people need to adopt this. So I'm really glad we're talking about it. When the time is right and you check with them first, hey, remember yesterday or earlier today when we were having that conversation? I've got some thoughts. Do you have time now for me to offload my stuff about this? Is that okay with you? Like, can we have that conversation now? It's just
Mhm.
communication. It's just checking. And to me, it seems like it's a lost art form in having
Oh.
communication and healthy expression, because I've still got those thoughts like, girl, maybe this is a bad idea. Like, I've got a big red flag about everything that you've just said. I'm hyped for you. Fantastic. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to be honest about my thoughts, but not then and there. You're going to check later
No.
and
Because
have that
also
conversation.
you want it because if you rain on their parade in that moment, then what it serves to do is it doesn't I mean it not only is a bummer for them and you don't want to make somebody you love feel like that, but it's also it makes you a slightly less trustworthy source to come to with things that they're either really excited about or feeling really vulnerable about, you know? And I certainly have not always been perfect on this front. Like I can think of very intense conversation that I ended up having with my girlfriend back in the fall where she went through something and like she really just we didn't have that conversation beforehand and she really needed me to just hold space because she had a very vulnerable painful discovery about herself and instead of just holding the space and waiting on the reaction I had and sharing that at a time where she would have been more receptive to it. I did it right away because it triggered something in me and I reacted, and it was absolutely not the move. It was not the move. And yeah, and it caused her like for a little while to pull back from me because it felt like, oh, this I thought you were a safe person to share this with, and now it feels unsafe, you know. And that's the opposite of what you want with the people that you love. Like you, and I agree. It's like it's like, do you need me to like hype you up? Or like, you need to listen? Do you know what is it? There's like three. It's like, do you need like, do you need a hug? Do you need a
I know, yeah.
something? Maybe
Do
all
you want
H
to talk
words.
about it? Do you want me to just listen and shut up?
Yeah.
Or do you want some like physical, do you need me to like physically be there and be like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. Like, what
how
is
you should respond. Yeah.
Yeah, do you want to be held, or do you want to, or do you need feedback, or like, do you need an opinion, or do you just need a vent or whatever it is? So, yes, yeah, agreed. It is very important, and it's something that like I'm okay at and also still working on
Yeah. Yeah. I think
personally.
we all are though. Like that's the whole point. And I think you touched on something else as well about like in when we stuff it up, because trust me, I all the time. All it's a process in learning this. It's definitely not something that it's hard, it's difficult, and we're humans, we're going to stuff it up, we're going to make mistakes. But that's when this topic gets so complicated and so in depth then, because then there's space for I've stuffed it up, I'm sorry, forgiveness, patching the friendship if you do put your foot in it when you're not supposed to, and it's like, we shouldn't have said that. And like, there's all of this, how to have healthier, better relationships is really where we've ended up in this conversation. I love it. But I think you touched on an important thing that you said when you responded not at your best, but you'd responded in a way because it triggered something in you.
Yes.
That's another whole other can of worms, because then if they're like, okay, I need you to be happy and supportive for me, hold all questions till the end, please. This is the start of my TED talk, word vomit, right? And at the end of that, you jump in and you're like, well, I had that red flag thought, but it's done something for me in my experience and my trauma in my life. That's that little red flag that I had in what you were saying. I no longer now have the emotional capacity or ability to keep it in my head.
Yes.
And now it's going to
Yes.
come out my mouth. And
Yep.
sometimes that's involuntary, especially if it's a
Yes.
trigger, or if sometimes it's voluntary. Sometimes we just stuff up and we say something without thinking it through, and the red flag comes out the mouth, and oops, there it goes. Um, but sometimes it's involuntary, especially if it's something similar to what you were talking about, as if it's triggered something for you in your experience, and it's difficult and painful, and they've said something and it's gone, oh, no, and then it's an involuntary thing. And I think that's an important thing to highlight as well. The fact that we've stuffed it up. Yes, we've stuffed it up, and that's still on us. But sometimes it's an involuntary thing where that red flag has gone, and then it's come out of it because we've said that dumb thing, because it's done something in us, and we now no longer have the control or the emotional, regulation to hold that in. Does
To
that make
hold it
sense?
in. Oh, absolutely. And so much of that is like, is that's self work, right? That's therapy, that's whatever. Finding those, like, that self awareness of going, okay, I'm triggered. I just felt myself get triggered. Like, and you know what? I need to step away. I actually need to step away, because then that is taking care of yourself and the other person, really.
Yeah.
It's so that instead of letting it just come out, it's going, you know what? I'm so sorry. I wanted to be able to hold this space. I wanted to be able to be your hype person right now. I'm finding that by no fault of yours, I am triggered by something. This is bringing something up for me, and I am not, um, I don't want to rain on your parade, and I don't want to make you feel unsafe. And so I need to go like deal with my shit.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
That's it.
and
Yeah.
then we can talk. Like where it really is recognizing that, like, oh, you didn't do anything wrong. This is me. And instead of blehing it out at you, I'm gonna call time out.
Mm.
And I think that's hard too, is that sometimes we really want to be those good friends and those good partners and the whatever, and to hold the space. And so we wait too long to call time out.
Yeah, 100%. No, 100%. You're absolutely right. And I think, but
You know?
that's the key to good relationships, good friendships, building a good community. The first step to building your commune, you're going to need to find people who can connect in that way and who understand that. And that's where the friendship really and the relationships there really grow, and you're really going to know quickly whether or not that person is going to mesh with you and understand you. Because if they're willing to say, as the person with all of the excitement that I'm trying to get out to you, and you've said, yep, Jem, I've got space for you, dish it, let's go, I'll be your hype girl, let's go, and I start pouring this out, and I've triggered something in you, and now you're not okay, and you've said exactly what you've just said to me, which was 100% perfect, I love it, that's like the perfect way. Hey, I'm sorry, by no fault of your own, this has done something for me, I need to call a timeout. Me, as your friend, needs to be able to go, okay, I'm really excited. So now I'm disappointed. And it's okay that I'm disappointed that I can't get all
Hey,
this
that's
out. And
good.
it's totally okay to accept the fact that I'm now disappointed that you can't be there for me in the way that I expected you to be. And that's an expectation that I have of you as my friend to be there for me. But I need to still love and respect you and go, okay, you don't have the space for that. It's not my fault. It's done something to you. That's okay. We're going to time out and we're going to come back to it and we're going to talk it through and we're going to figure this out together if you want to. It could be a
Mhm.
really
And
personal thing and you might not want to bring it back to me, and that's okay too.
and
Like,
that's okay too. And again, going back to the commune, like, and that's why we don't just have one person in our lives for all the things,
100%. Yeah.
that is why. That is why, like, this idea of, I mean, I'm such like a, I'm such a not singular person anyway. I'm bisexual and I'm polyamorous and I want a commune. Like these things all,
People
this is
give
just,
me all the people all the time.
I want to be all people all the time. And so so this is very deep in my like DNA. It's sort of like the threading of who I am, that I just think there is so much, you're setting yourself up for pain and difficulty if you have like the one person in your life. And I recognize like some people don't have access to as many people, so I'm not saying like you need a whole freaking giant community, but like even just two or three people in your life, like a family member, a partner, a friend, or a teacher, a this or that, like some combination, two or three people at least. Like at any given time, if you have three people, right, chances are one of them is going to be available to you to hold that kind of space that you need, right? And that obviously those odds go up the more people that you add in, or. And to me that is again full circle commune. So much of that is recognizing that like we have built our lives in modern day in these ways, and propped up this idea and this fantasy that like we that a like first of all, independence equals worthiness. So like there's that is like really really I would call like toxic um independence in some ways we prop up. And I don't need help, I don't need anybody kind of thing. But then there's like and if I do need somebody, it's my one partner, like that is my person, and they are that, and they're gonna have to be everything. They're gonna have to check all the boxes and be all the things, and whether they want to be that or not, because I am not allowing anybody else into this. But then it expands even beyond that of like scrambling, like again with kids, it's like, yeah, I want more people around who love and are willing to care for my kids every once in a while, when I can't or I need a break. And I want to be that for their kids. And I have certain friends that I know like I can stay up talking late into the night with. I have other friends who I know I travel really well with. I have other friends who like I create art with, and some friends who like are the opposite end of that spectrum. And like you do know what I mean? Like, so this idea, we all bring something to the table, we all bring something to the village. And if we live in these little bubbles and we build our lives in these tiny little nuclear family bubbles, we're cutting ourselves off at the knees when it comes to that kind of support and like the network of people that we need us when it comes to any of this stuff. Yeah.
100%.
So,
I think you summed it up perfectly, which is great timing because we're nearly out of time. So you've summed it up perfectly
oh,
and beautifully.
yeah.
The the I love your little analogy with like the box or a bubble. Like the world today is so insular and so disconnected, which is funny because we're constantly talking about how connected we are with social media and video, like, and we're talking about how we live in a time and age where travel is easier and, it's easier to see people and easier to connect with people. You can message people, everybody's got a way to communicate in their pocket. But we are
Yeah.
so disconnected more than ever now. And the ideas and the cultural, especially in our Western culture, the States, Australia, in that the idea of either nuclear families and things like that as well, like it's very disconnected and it's very insular, and we're missing something. It's my experience that humans need connection. Humans
Yeah.
need other humans. We can't do it alone. Don't get me wrong. There's a time and place for independence. I'm a strong, independent woman. I will do it myself. Like there is a time and place for that. Don't get me wrong there. But having community and relationship, and whether or not you want to phrase that as needing a commune, whether or not you want to phrase that as needing a community, whether or not you want to phrase that as a greater extended family, however you want to put the language around it, as long as we're all on the same page and having these conversations, that it is not good for you to be alone. We need
No.
we need connection, we need community, and you can build that and create that from wherever you are, however you want to do it. You can be super isolated and you can still find opportunities to create community. And I will always speak about that and give 100% to that, because I live in the middle of rural Australia on the other side of the world, and I started a podcast so that I could go and I could reach people and get talking to creatives and actors and break into this space and have these sorts of conversations to highlight important stuff like this, in
Yeah.
knowing everything that you've said 100%, that we're not good alone. It just doesn't work.
No, not. And like, of course, independence is important. And of course, having your own space and being like your alone time is important, But like, it's the extremes either way, right? It's like we don't want to be living in these cities where we're all living on top of each other and we have no space, and it's several people to a room and whatever. But we also don't want to be living completely totally alone in our own. I mean, my God, I can't say for Australia, but for the States, like lockdown during COVID certainly showed that. Everything in balance. It really is, like that's what it is just it to me. Having in-person villages balance, and then I would love to find some sort of balance with social media, etc., like online connections. I am yet to find that balance because I think we are all woefully addicted to our little pocket computers.
Yep.
Yeah, and like because they're designed like that, so they're designed to have us be addicted.
They want
So
you to
that
stay.
yeah, so like that is not in balance. But in a perfect world, we would be able to, there would be systems in place that would allow us to strike that balance where we can use like the internet for good and for real connection.
I'm going to hit you with two really short questions, and then we're going to let you go because
Okay.
we've reached the end of our time together. Steph from the podcast has sent in a question. What was your experience like on Evolution, and how is it different to other roles you've had?
Oh my goodness. My experience on Evolution has been, continues to be extraordinary. It's great. It is above, even beyond the scope that the show, that Criminal Minds reaches, the audience that it reaches internationally, and how amazing like that has been to be part of such a giant franchise show. It really, it's just such a wonderful work environment. I absolutely love going to set. The people in front of the camera and behind the camera are all lovely, like to a human. It is such a well-oiled machine. It is a chill set. People are very supportive of one another. It feels like, it really does feel like that, like beautiful idyllic kind of village, and everybody's helping to create a thing together, and we're all in on it. Everyone's professional and kind and fun. And it is I'm incredibly grateful to work on this show specifically because of the work culture. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So.
Final question, quick one for you. Do you have a favorite piece of queer media, a book, TV show, or movie that you found recently that was sent in by Peyton? So any little media ideas you've got. Hit us.
A recent one. I mean, I'm old, everybody. My favorite pieces of queer media are not recent ones. Let me think. I want to think about like I do want to think about there are some recent things that I like. I mean, my one of my favorite pieces of queer media from back in the day that I've seen so many times is If These Walls Could Talk Too, which is a movie that came out, I think it went like straight to HBO or it was HBO produced, whatever. And it was like three different story timelines of like three different lesbian couples or groups of lesbians living in this one house in three different eras of American history. It's funny and it's heartbreaking and it's lovely. And it was very formative for me when I saw it as a teenager. So I would say that is like that always floats to the top of my list. I'm also a huge Ani DeFranco fan, and she's a bisexual folk singer, and her music and specifically her lyrics have been like extraordinarily influential to me since I was a teenager as well. So those are her songs. And then I'm like, what else? Queer media that has been, oh my God, I've been in so much queer media. I've seen so much queer media. I live and breathe queer media.
Or anything else, I feel like following you on Instagram is the way to go to find more queer media if you're looking for that. Just go follow Nicole on Instagram and you'll find it all. That's the easy answer there for you.
So much queer media. It's all queer media with me. Yes, do that. But I've been told I need to see The Hunting Wives. I keep hearing that. My former podcast co-host, it told me to. She's like, you got to see it. Have you seen it yet? So that's up on my list. And like, I also am very much looking forward to like actually going and watching Queer Ultimatum, because I watched a few episodes of second season when it was on at one of my friends' houses, and I immediately was like, oh, I totally see why everybody's hooked on this. This is so freaking dramatic and like just despicable in the best way. So I'm like looking forward to getting into that.
There you go. Despicable in the best way. That's fantastic.
Despicable in the best way.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Beautiful. Nicole, thank you so much for your time today. I know we've got to let you go really quick, so I really appreciate you jumping on board, and we've powered on through our internet problems at the end, but it's been an amazing conversation. It's been absolutely fantastic, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gemma. This has been great. I really appreciate it.
Everybody go watch Criminal Minds. She's been in season 19 shooting, and it's going to be out next year sometime, and keep watching it, keep streaming it. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for watching.
That's all for episode 7 of I Don't Know What We're Talking About. A huge thank you to Nicole Pacent for joining me. This conversation was heartfelt and thoughtful and just the right amount of chaotic, exactly like I like it. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow and subscribe wherever you listen, and don't forget, you can get early access and behind-the-scenes extras over on patreon.com/Gemma Watches Stuff. Now, go drink some water. Future you will thank you. Catch you next time.